baby chicken. Wait a minute. Oh my god!
I'm pretty sure that these are some of the funniest fake Minecraft speedruns because the speedrunners are absolutely terrible at hiding the fact that they're cheating. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. But not only that, they also start in their last hotbar slot, which immediately lets us know that the speedrun is more than likely fake. But once the speedrunner turns to look at the village, they see some striders trapped inside some fences. But the thing is, striders only spawn inside of snow biomes. So a strider being right here literally makes no sense. Well, the speedrunner ignores these very strange striders and finds a villager's house, which I've honestly never seen before. And the house has 4 doors. So they enter door number 1 and find a chest filled with emeralds. So they take the emeralds and enter door 2, which also has a chest. And of course, it's filled with tons of emeralds. So they take these emeralds as well and enter door 3, which has the exact same thing. Well, I have a weird feeling that door number 4 also has tons of emeralds. And if I'm right, I think that everyone should subscribe. Well, they enter door number 4, and of course, there's tons of emeralds. So I guess that means that everyone has to subscribe. Now that they have around 2 billion emeralds, they go up to a villager at the blacksmith and buy a fire aspect sword. They then enter the blacksmith, which surprisingly has some pretty normal loot. So they take the loot and leave the blacksmith. But that's when they decide to go back towards the striders and kill them for literally no reason. They then decide to get some food, so they go to a farm and steal some potatoes. Wait, what is that? They spot a trapdoor in the water, so of course they enter it and find a nether portal. I'm pretty sure nether portals spawning beneath farms is actually in the newest update, which makes this completely legit. Well, the speedrunner enters the portal, and once they're in the nether, they look around and find some diamonds? Well, I don't think diamonds spawn in the nether. Well, either way, they mine the diamonds and find a chest behind them, which of course has a stack of ender eyes. So the speedrunner takes the ender eyes and leaves the nether. Once they're back in the overworld, they find exactly 4 tall grass. So they break all the tall grass and break the blocks below it, and they jump into the hole. Wait, what the heck is happening? How are they in the end? Well, I guess now that they're in the end, they look around the entire end, and there's just for some reason no ender dragon. Which, in case you didn't know, makes it incredibly easy for the speedrunner to beat the game. And that's exactly what they do by going through the portal and beating the game. This speedrunner starts by fighting the Steve for literally no reason, and I'm pretty sure they win the 1v1 because the Steve apparently just runs away and drops them their head. Oh, wait a minute, this is the wrong footage. My bad. See this crying emoji? Well, that will literally be me if you do not subscribe, so you better subscribe. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome and they immediately go to a tree to get some wood. That's when we see a red mushroom on a singular block of podzol, which would not naturally spawn inside of a plains biome. Well, for now, just keep this in mind for later. The speedrunner begins to mine the tree until they eventually find a barrel, and inside the barrel is a stack of planks. And for some reason, the speedrunner uses the stack of planks to build themselves a house. They give us a quick little house tour, but if we rewind the footage back to whenever they were making the house and pause it right here, we can see some little particle effects through this dirt. And these particle effects only show up when there's a nether portal, where the speedrunner goes up to this exact same spot and breaks the dirt just to find an already lit nether portal, which is obviously cheated. Well, the speedrunner goes into the nether, and once in the nether, they look around for a little bit, but they find absolutely nothing until they look inside this lava and find a chest filled with blaze powder. Well, the speedrunner takes their blaze powder and goes back through the portal and into the overworld. Remember when we talked about that mushroom in the podzol? Well, the speedrunner goes up to that mushroom and breaks below the podzol and finds a chest filled with ender pearls. So the speedrunner takes the ender pearls and uses their blaze powder and the ender pearls to make themselves some eyes of ender. Once the speedrunner has their eyes of ender, they go up to another dirt spot and break through it just to find a weird long hallway. So they go down the hallway and then turn around and they're somehow in the stronghold? I'm not gonna lie, I am very confused. Well, the speedrunner places in the eyes of ender and enters the end. But once they're in the end, they don't have a pickaxe to be able to get out. Oh, wait, how the heck did they get out? Alright then. Well, the speedrunner is now trying to fight the ender dragon, but they have no loot. So if the speedrunner finds some magical way to kill the ender dragon and wins the speedrun, I think everyone should subscribe, because that would be insanely impressive. Well, the speedrunner goes up to the ender dragon and hits it once, and the ender dragon is somehow dead. Well, I guess that means you have to subscribe. So the speedrunner just goes through the portal and easily wins the speedrun. This speedrunner starts right next to a snowy village. So the first thing they do is enter the village when they suddenly get stuck inside some snow, which is honestly kind of embarrassing. embarrassing. Once they finally get out of the snow, they see a pink sheep out in the distance, with only a 0.00001% chance of spawning. So if you ever find a pink sheep, make sure to not kill it. Wait, what are they doing? Well, the speedrunner killed the extremely rare pink sheep, and then they go up to a villager's house and open the door to find a chest. And inside the chest is some normal loot, other than the fact that there's a stack of obsidian. So the speedrunner takes the obsidian and leaves the house. But that's when the speedrunner sees a cobblestone pillar in the middle of a lake. So the speedrunner goes up to the pillar, and now they're suddenly in the nether? Well, I don't know about you, but I am very, very confused. The speedrunner looks around the nether for a little bit until they see some wooden parkour. So the speedrunner goes up to the parkour, but instead of doing it normally, they instead open up their inventory and find some elytra with some fireworks. So they put on the elytra and just fly up to the end of the parkour. And that's where they find a chest, but they open the chest and there is no loot inside of it. Wait a minute, what? I could have sworn literally 2 seconds ago that there was no loot inside the chest, but maybe I'm just crazy or something. Well, the speedrunner takes the stack of Eyes of Ender and goes back down to the pillar to do their magical tricks again. So now that they're back in the village, they wander around for a little bit until they suddenly break a random piece of ice and drop down a hole which leads them to the stronghold? I don't know about you, but this is a very weird looking stronghold. To me, it just looks like the speedrunner tried to recreate the stronghold but failed miserably. Well, the speedrunner places in the Eyes of Ender and enters the end. But once the speedrunner is in the end, they come up with a 200 IQ play because they just go inside a creative and break all the end crystals and kill the ender dragon. Like I said, a 200 IQ play. And that's how the speedrunner got the world record time for the fastest speedrun. This speedrun starts right next to a village. And right off the bat, we can tell that something is strange because there are tons of iron golems. But once the speedrunner starts going through the village, they for some reason find iron and roses on the ground, which only drops whenever iron golems are killed. And there is a lot of iron, so the speedrunner goes around the village getting all of the iron, but that's when the speedrunner sees some weird colored wood at the tip of this house. So the speedrunner enters the house and finds a chest, which has a stack of obsidian and a flint and steel. So the speedrunner takes the loot and goes outside the building to build himself a nether portal. Once the speedrunner is in the nether, they find a very obvious path. So we go across the path until they find an ender chest. They open the ender chest and find tons of Eyes of Ender. So they take the Eyes of Ender and go back through the portal. Once they're back in the overworld, they take a piece of wood and make it into a crafting table. And that's when they use their iron to make themselves a full set of iron armor. The speedrunner then wanders around the village for a little bit until they spot this very odd looking tree. So they go up to the tree and start mining it, and that's when they find a secret ladder. So they climb up the ladder and find an end portal? I didn't know end portals spawn on top of trees, but maybe I just missed an update. But the speedrunner places in their Eyes of Ender and enters the end. Once in the end, they instantly find tons of diamond blocks. So they follow the path of diamond blocks, but that's when they realize that there is simply no ender dragon. So they just simply go through the portal. This speedrunner spawns in and immediately turns around and finds a pillager outpost and a ruin portal, which if you ask me is a pretty lucky spawn. The speedrunner first goes to the pillager outpost, but tons of pillagers start attacking them. So the speedrunner enters the outpost, and once he gets to the top, he sees tons of pillagers and shulkers? Wait a minute, why are there shulkers in a pillager outpost? Because shulkers only spawn inside of caves, which means there's no way for a shulker to possibly be inside this outpost. Well, because of how many mobs there are, the speedrunner instantly dies, but they spawn back in. And set the difficulty to peaceful? I'm pretty sure this breaks the rules of speedrunning. But the speedrunner goes back to the pillager outpost and can now attack the shulkers without them attacking him. So he opens the chest and finds tons of golden apples. Alright, he is definitely cheating just like my dad cheats on my mom. Wait, what? Well, he takes the golden apples and leaves the pillager outpost. Once the speedrunner is at the ruin portal, they loot the chest and surprisingly find some pretty normal loot. The only thing weird about this is that they have the exact amount of obsidian they need to fix the ruin portal. So they place down their obsidian and light the ruin portal. Once in the nether, the speedrunner finds a conveniently placed path of just gold ore. So of course the speedrunner follows the path, which of course leads him right to a nether fortress. Wait, why is this nether fortress filled with horses? And first of all, the horses shouldn't even be inside of a nether fortress because horses can only spawn in the desert. But once the speedrunner is in the fortress, they look around for a little bit until they find a house. They enter the small pink house and find a sign that says present from Herobrine. Let's just ignore the fact that the speedrunner is clearly in like first grade. And if this chest has some clearly cheated loot, I feel like that should mean that everyone should subscribe. Well, they open the chest and find a stack of Eyes of Ender, because of course they do. They take the Eyes of Ender and make their way back towards the nether portal. Once they're back in the overworld, wait, what the heck? How did this end portal get here? Because if we look back in the footage, there was definitely not an end portal here, which means this speedrunner must be using some magical powers. Well, they place in the Eyes of Ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, we can very quickly realize that there is just no ender dragon, but there are tons of diamond blocks and a sign, which says Hero Herobrine killed Dragon? Oh wow, thank you Herobrine, you're so nice. And that's how the speedrunner got the world record for the fastest speedrun. This speedrunner starts by looking down at the ground, but whenever they look up, they see a zombie spinning on a pole? Wait, what the heck is going on? Why are they giving him emeralds? Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. My bad. I am super close to 20,000 subscribers, so you better subscribe. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. So they immediately go to the village and enter the closest house. And in the house is a block I've actually never seen before. But the speedrunner ignores this very strange block and leaves the house. They then find a horse with a saddle already attached to it, which only has a 2% chance of spawning. So the speedrunner rides the horse and begins running off into the distance, until eventually they can see a ruined portal out in the distance. But wait, is that ruined portal already lit? The chances of there being an already lit nether portal are literally impossible. But once the speedrunner is at the nether portal, they exit the horse and loot the chest, which has some normal loot. They then enter the portal, and once inside the nether, the speedrunner finds a creeper head and a sign. And the sign says, "Twerk on creeper for special gift." What the heck? Surely the speedrunner isn't gonna— Wait, oh my god, what are you doing? Wait, how do they have eyes of ender all of a sudden? I am literally so confused what just happened. But the speedrunner takes her special gift and leaves the nether. But once they're in the overworld, they look around and their horse is literally nowhere to be seen. So the speedrunner ends up running all the way back to the village. But that's when the speedrunner types inside chat, BRB? Why is the speedrunner going AFK inside of a speedrun? It might be some new pro tactic, you never know. Well, eventually the speedrunner comes back and they go deeper inside the village, until they end up finding a sign with a hole behind it. And the sign says, "Not stronghold." Honestly, I think this sign is telling the truth. So the speedrunner drops down the hole and dies. Oh wait, never mind. I meant to say they easily make it down the hole, which led them to the stronghold. Well, I guess that sign was lying. Not only is the end portal already lit, there's also a chest and a bed. And inside the chest is insanely overpowered loot. So the speedrunner takes some of the loot, sets their spawn point, and enters the end. Once in the end, they have to make a very difficult jump. So the speedrunner tries to make the jump and fails. Oh wait, never mind, they easily made it. Oh, I could have sworn they fell there. Maybe it's just a glitch or something. Well, now that the speedrunner easily made the jump, they can now kill the ender dragon. Why is the ender dragon on 1 HP? Well, all the speedrunner has to do is hit the dragon one time, but I think they shoot over a stack of arrows but consistently keep on missing. Honestly, I don't think there's a single person who has worse aim than this speedrunner. Eventually, they hit one shot and it kills the ender dragon. And that's how the speedrunner finishes his speedrun. This speedrunner starts inside of a village. They immediately turn into the right and go in third person, where we can see a strange emerald block on top of this roof. I'm guessing it was there to symbolize that building, so that way they know which building to go inside of. And that's exactly what they do. They go inside of that building and find a chest. And inside that chest is a strange amount of obsidian. So the speedrunner takes all the obsidian and leaves the house. Once outside, the speedrunner finds some floating obsidian, which I guess is there because he forgot to break his last nether portal. So with the speedrunner's very legit obsidian, they begin to make themselves a nether portal. Oh, they messed up. So they try making another nether portal, but they mess up again. Well, you know what they say, third time's a charm, and they build the nether portal. The only problem is they have no flint and steel to light the nether portal. Wait, what the heck is that? I don't think villagers randomly have a flint and steel inside of an item frame, but maybe I'm just missing an update. Well, the speedrunner takes the flint and steel and lights the nether portal. But instead of going inside the nether portal, the speedrunner turns around and begins to mine a random piece of grass which has TNT below it. Well, I wonder how they knew that was there. Well, now that the speedrunner has the TNT, they now go inside of the nether portal. And once in the nether, they look around for a little bit until they decide to mine a block and place their TNT inside of it. But once the TNT blows up, they find a chest. So the speedrunner opens the chest and finds tons of ender eyes. Wait, what? There's also a pitcher pod? What the heck is a pitcher pod? Well, the speedrunner takes all the eyes of ender and the pitcher pod, I guess, and goes back to the nether portal and into the overworld. Once in the overworld, the speedrunner finds a dragon egg and they just stare at it. So, how's your day? They find some stone sticking out of the ground and they jump on top of it to do some insane house parkour and find an end portal? I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure end portals don't just randomly spawn on top of villagers' roofs. But the speedrunner places in their eyes of ender and enters the end. Once at the end, the speedrunner is trapped inside of some end stone. And since they don't have a pickaxe, there's literally no way for them to get out. So how do you think the speedrunner is gonna get out of this hole? A, mine out with their fist. B, magically get a pickaxe. C, going creative. Or D, B, leave. Well, if you chose C, you are wrong, because they just leave the speedrun. This speedrunner starts inside of a swamp biome, which if you know anything about speedrunning, you know is probably the worst biome to speedrun in. They start off by finding tons of ocelots for some reason, which is kind of weird because everyone knows that ocelots only spawn inside of those pink tree biomes. But the speedrunner ignores the ocelots and begins to mine a tree. They get a few logs and turn the logs into planks, which they use to make a crafting table. Once they place down their crafting table, they make themselves a pressure plate and some trapdoors. The speedrunner places down the pressure plate and their trapdoors right next to it and just sits there and looks at their amazing contraption. Eventually, the speedrunner gets bored and starts doing some weird stuff to this cow. And honestly, at this point, I'm confused how this is even a speedrun. The speedrunner then starts to attack this random baby ocelot for literally no reason. The speedrunner gets bored and starts making their way up a mountain. Once they get to the top, they see this giant cave that for some reason has torches inside the cave, which I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure torches don't just naturally spawn. But the speedrunner explores the cave for a little bit until they find an end portal. But the speedrunner obviously does not have any ender eyes. So they go in creative and give themselves some ender eyes. Wait, what? They place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once in the end, they go up to the dragon and type inside chat, "Dragon, die!" Which if you ask me is obviously not gonna work. Wait, what? Well, the dragon is now dead and the speedrunner goes to the portal, but wait a minute. They start to come up with an evil plan. They explode the entire end and then they go through the portal. This speedrun starts pretty normal as they're in a plains biome, and the first thing they do is just start walking around until they find this lava pool. The lava pools only spawn if there is stone around them, and this lava pool very clearly has no stone, which makes me think that the speedrunner probably put this lava pool here themselves. Well, the speedrunner ignores the lava pool, and that's where we can see a polar bear? I'm gonna be honest, I thought polar bears only spawn inside of savanna biomes, so the fact that I see a polar bear inside of a plains biome is genuinely confusing. But the speedrunner completely ignores the polar bear and decides to run to this tree to get some wood. Wait, is that a shulker? I've actually never seen a shulker be inside of a tree before, but maybe their game just glitched or something. Well, the shulker hits them and makes them fly, but it's okay because they land inside of a pool of water. They get a piece of wood and even start beating up the shulker. They eventually just leave the shulker alone as they are extremely low. So they head back towards the lava pool and find a nether portal. If you go rewind the video right now to where there was a lava pool, let me know if there was a nether portal here because I don't think there was. Well, even though there is a magical lava pool here, the speedrunner still has no flint and steel, so they can't let the nether portal. Wait, what? Well, they go into the portal, and now that they're in the nether, they find a bunch of hoglins that try to beat them up. So the speedrunner tries to just run away until out of nowhere, they randomly start gaining hunger bars and health, which I didn't even know was possible. And not only that, the hoglins for some reason don't want to attack the speedrunner anymore. Well, the speedrunner finds a chest and a sign, and the sign says legit chest. If this chest has items that are not legit, I feel like everyone should probably subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds tons of eyes of ender. Well, I guess that means that everyone has to subscribe. The speedrunner takes the eyes of ender and makes her way back towards the nether portal. Now that they're back in the overworld, they for some reason don't throw the eye of ender and instead start going towards the polar bear. They then for some reason punch the polar bear and somehow fall through the water and find an end portal. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is not a stronghold. But the speedrunner just jumps into the end portal, and once they're in the end, they find some diamond parkour. So the speedrunner starts doing the parkour and is actually pretty good at parkour. Oh, they fell. Oh wait, never mind, they made it. Oh wait, never mind, they fell again. Oh, never mind, they made it. I'm not gonna lie, I am very confused what is happening right now. Well, they make the rest of the parkour legitly, and that's when they realize that for some odd reason, there is just simply no ender dragon. But I do see a sign that says, Ender Dragon is sick today? So because the ender dragon is sick, the speedrunner just goes up to the end portal and beats the speedrun. This speedrun starts inside of a village. The speedrunner then crafts himself an iron sword and even builds himself a house. Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I am so sorry. This speedrun starts right next to a village, but the only problem is that they're 80 blocks in the sky. But lucky for the speedrunner, they're right next to a lake, which they should easily be able to land inside of. Oh, they completely missed. Well, the speedrunner goes into the village and for some odd reason finds tons of cows inside of this patch. So the speedrunner goes inside of it and smacks a few cows until they suddenly get a stack of beef, which literally makes no sense because they didn't even kill a cow. They then begin eating the meat even though they're full hunger bars. And when I say they're eating the meat, I mean they are eating it because they just keep on eating it even though they are still full hunger. Well, eventually they do stop eating the meat and begin breaking some wood get on this house. They turn the logs into planks and make themselves a crafting table and some sticks. They place in the crafting table and try to make themselves a wooden pickaxe, but they are missing one piece of wood. So they go to mine some more wood, but the iron golem is looking at them kinda weird, so they smack it. And then they break the wood and make themselves a wooden pickaxe. Now that they have a wooden pickaxe, they start absolutely destroying this house for some reason until they have 14 cobblestone. They then begin randomly placing down their cobblestone. And can someone tell me why this cobblestone looks like a nether portal? Well, the speedrunner goes inside their cobblestone nether portal. Wait, what? How are they in the nether? Well, I am genuinely confused, but there could just be an update that I might have missed. Well, the speedrunner finds some lava, and inside the lava is some blaze powder. So of course the speedrunner takes all the blaze powder and goes back through their cobblestone nether portal. Now that they're back in the overworld, they go up to the wishing well and throw their torch and make a wish to get tons of ender pearls. And their wish somehow actually comes true because inside of the wishing well are some ender pearls. So they take the ender pearls and use their blaze powder and the ender pearls to make themselves some eyes of ender. They then find some carpet on the ground and another piece of carpet and another one, and they just keep on following the trail until eventually they find an end portal just out in the open like this. Even though I'm pretty sure end portals don't just randomly spawn here. Well, the speedrunner just jumps down to the end portal and fills in all of the eyes of ender. Once they're in the end, they just dig their way out, and for some reason the ender dragon is extremely low. The ender dragon shoots them with their ball, but for some reason it just does not damage the speedrunner. So because of that, the speedrunner can easily kill the ender dragon, and then they just win the speedrun. This speedrunner starts right next to a village. So they immediately go to the village and enter the closest house. And in the house is a block I've actually never seen before. But the speedrunner ignores this very strange block and leaves the house. They then find a horse with a saddle already attached to it, which only has a 2% chance of spawning. So the speedrunner rides the horse and begins running off into the distance, until eventually they can see a ruined portal out in the distance. But wait, is that ruined portal already lit? The chances of there being an already lit nether portal are literally impossible. But once the speedrunner is at the nether portal, they exit the horse and loot the chest, which has some normal loot. They then enter the portal, and once inside the nether, the speedrunner finds a creeper head and a sign. And the sign says, "Twerk on creeper for special gift." What the heck? Surely the speedrunner isn't gonna— Wait, oh my god, what are you doing? Wait, how do they have eyes of ender all of a sudden? I am literally so confused what just happened. But the speedrunner takes her special gift and leaves the nether. But once they're in the overworld, they look around and their horse is literally nowhere to be seen. So the speedrunner ends up running all the way back to the village. But that's when the speedrunner types inside chat, BRB? Why is the speedrunner going AFK inside of a speedrun? It might be some new pro tactic, you never know. Well, eventually the speedrunner comes back and they go deeper inside the village, until they end up finding a sign with a hole behind it. And the sign says, "Not stronghold." Honestly, I think this sign is telling the truth. So the speedrunner drops down the hole and dies. Oh wait, never mind. I meant to say they easily make it down the hole, which led them to the stronghold. Well, I guess that sign was lying. Not only is the end portal already lit, there's also a chest and a bed. And inside the chest is insanely overpowered loot. So the speedrunner takes some of the loot, sets their spawn point, and enters the end. Once in the end, they have to make a very difficult jump. So the speedrunner tries to make the jump and fails. Oh wait, never mind. They easily made it. Oh, I could have sworn they fell there. Maybe it's just a glitch or something. Well, now that the speedrunner easily made the jump, they can now kill the ender dragon. Wait, why is the ender dragon on 1 HP? Well, all the speedrunner has to do is hit the dragon one time, but I think they shoot over a stack of arrows but consistently keep on missing. Honestly, I don't think there's a single person who has worse aim than this speedrunner. Eventually, they hit one shot and it kills the ender dragon. And that's how the speedrunner finishes his speedrun. This first speedrun starts off pretty normal because they're right next to a village. And the first thing they do is run into the village and steal some farmers' crops. Once they finish stealing all of the food, they suddenly see a panda. But the thing is, pandas only spawn inside of super hot biomes, like the desert or the nether. So a panda being right here is extremely rare. Well, the speedrunner picks up an egg dropped from a chicken and throws it right at the iron golem, which does not make him very happy as he starts chasing down the speedrunner. So in fear, the speedrunner runs away until they finally go in a house which has a chest. Now, at first, this would seem pretty normal until you realize that this specific house inside of a village never has any chests, which makes me believe that they placed down this chest here before the speedrun started. And this is even more proven because whenever they open the chest, they find some weird loot, like an iron pickaxe, an iron helmet, an iron sword, one iron ingot, and iron pants. Loot that could only spawn if this was a blacksmith. So this loot has to be fake. Well, they take all of this loot, put on the iron armor, armor and go around the village a little bit more until they find an actual blacksmith. And in the chest is a calibrated skulk sensor. I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even know that was a thing. Where they take this calibrated skulk sensor and start heading out of the village. That's when they suddenly see a ruined portal down in this river. So the speedrun safely makes their way down the hill, and once they make it to the ruined portal, they open the chest and find some actually pretty normal loot. They take all of this loot and use the flint that they got from this ruined portal and the iron ingot to make themselves a flint and steel. They also got 1 obsidian from the chest, which is the exact right amount they needed for the ruined portal, which you could argue is just a coincidence, but I'm honestly not too sure. They finish the ruined portal and go into the nether. Now once they're in the nether, they get a pretty lucky spawn because they spawned right next to a fortress. But instead of going inside the fortress, the speedrunner instead decides to dig on the side of it. That's when they suddenly find some gold blocks. And trust me, there is a lot of gold blocks. They get them all, which is like 13 stacks of gold blocks, and they make them into gold ingots. They then dig open this hole to reveal tons of piglins, which is definitely not scripted at all. They then drop all of their gold ingots onto the piglins and leave them there as they go adventure into the fortress. Now before they really get into the fortress, some weird stuff is going on because we can see tons of random holes throughout the entirety of the fortress, which I believe is actually a trail. And I have a weird feeling that this trail is gonna lead them to the blaze spawner. And if my guess is correct, I would highly recommend subscribing. Well, the speedrunner follows the trail for quite some time until eventually they find the blaze spawner, which means I was right and you should honestly subscribe because it genuinely helps me out so much. Now for some reason, the blazes aren't really spawning at this blaze spawner, so the speedrunner digs out the holes so that way blazes can actually spawn. And once they do, the speedrunner starts killing them. And on their first 2 kills, they get 2 blaze rods, which is not impossible, but extremely lucky because we all know someone else who got extremely lucky with some blaze rods, where they continue to just keep on fighting all the blazes until something very weird happens. Because the speedrunner gets extremely low and even down to half a heart. But a sudden cut happens and we can see all of the loot moved around, and they also magically gained almost a full level of XP, which doesn't usually happen. So my guess here is that the speedrunner died but decided to instead cut it out. But the speedrunner starts making their way back towards their nether portal. But this is when I realized something very suspicious. Because right before the cut happened, the speedrunner had 4 blaze rods, and now they have 6. So I also feel as though they gave themselves some blaze rods, which is actually against the rules of speedrunning. But once they finally make it back towards their portal, they go to check their trades with the piglins. And to say the trades were not very good would be an understatement, because they only got 5 ender pearls, and they need at most 12. So instead of trading some more with the piglins, they instead just leave the nether. Now that they're back in the overworld, they start exploring in some completely random direction. And if I paused the video here and told you that something suspicious was in this screenshot, you would probably think I'm lying, because at first glance, it seems pretty normal. That is until we see this little patch of pumpkins. Because whenever the speedrunner goes up to the pumpkins, they go to this very specific pumpkin and dig straight down below it. That's when they find themselves in the stronghold. Yeah, this definitely looks like a real stronghold. There's even a sign that says Ral Stronghold, so it's gotta be real. Okay, the speedrunner at least tried to make it seem like it was a real stronghold, but I'm gonna be honest, this is absolutely terrible. The speedrunner opens up their inventory and we can see that they now have 12 ender pearls, even though whenever they were trading, they only had 5. So I guess at some point during the speed run, they must have given themselves some ender pearls, where they make themselves some eyes of ender and place in all of the eyes and enter the end. To say this end fight was close would honestly be generous, because the speedrunner doesn't hit the ender dragon a single time. They instead start randomly building up and build this weird structure out of obsidian and crying obsidian, and even place down their skulk sensor. They then start punching their skulk sensor until they suddenly type inside chat /kill@A. But before they do that, they change their game mode to creative and then they type it, because this is supposed to kill every entity inside of the game. And if the speedrunner is in creative, it won't kill them, right? Well, actually wrong, because the speedrunner types in this command and it actually kills him. And at this point, the speedrunner is just mad, so they just give up and the speedrun just ends there. The speedrunner starts by mining a tree, but the tree is falling. Okay. Well, they then go into a cave and open an emerald. Wait, what? Oh my god, this is the wrong footage. I am so sorry. If you could do me a huge favor and subscribe, that would genuinely make my day. This speedrunner starts by choosing their world, and they go to click on a world that they already created. And if we look closely, the world says it's in creative. Not only that, but there's also cheats, which is against the rules of speedrunning, where the speedrunner clicks on the world, and once they spawn in, their spawn seems pretty normal. That is until they turn around and they're in a village. They start heading around the village, and for some reason, the villagers are growing birch trees. I've never heard of that before, but maybe it's in the newest update, where the speedrunner goes inside of a pen where there's a cow and a tree, and they start mining the tree. They mine some logs, and underneath the last log is actually a chest. So the speedrunner opens the chest, which has full diamond armor and some diamond tools, which if you ask me is 100% legit. They take all the armor and the tools and put on the armor, and then they start spam clicking on the iron golem. But if we look back at the very start of the speedrun, they were on version 1.20, which means that spam clicking doesn't even do any damage. So the speedrunner sits here for a very long time, constantly hitting the iron golem until eventually it dies. They pick up the iron and then head inside of a house to steal one singular potato. Don't ask me why, because I have no idea. They begin heading out of the village until they find a lava pool and a nether portal that's already lit for some reason. So like any normal person, they're obviously gonna go inside of the portal. And the speedrunner got a lucky spawn because they're in the fortress. So they start heading down the path of the fortress until they find a chest and a sign. And the sign says happy birthday. So I guess it's the speedrunner's birthday. And inside the chest is some eyes of ender. Dang, this is one lucky speedrunner. They take all the eyes of ender, and as they turn, we can see an end portal in the nether, which is very strange. But the speedrunner makes their way back towards the portal and enters the overworld. Once they're back in the overworld, they find this waterfall. So of course they climb it and they swim into the hole where they find this secret base. And there's also a lectern with a book. The speedrunner clicks on the book and the book says, "Congratulations." I didn't even know that was a word, but okay.
You did found the Mr. PP the Great's Jr. the Second the Great's secret base. This base is a secret base.
Wow, it's a good thing they said this base is a secret base 2 separate times back to back, or else I would have had no idea. Good job, Mr. Speedrunner.
To find the end portal, you must first do riddle on the next page. The riddle is on the next page. Once again, they said it 2 times, just in case we forgot it was on the next page like 2 seconds later. Well, the speedrunner goes to the next page, and it says, what you looked for is under the lectern thingy. And there's also a hint that says it's under the lectern.
Even though this riddle was super duper hard, the speedrunner figures it out and breaks underneath the lectern to find whatever monstrosity this is. It's like an end portal, but it's not. I don't really know. Well, either way, the speedrunner jumps into it. They start building up and head towards the middle of the island. That's when we realize that there are no endermen. Not only that, but there's also no ender dragon. And the portal is already lit. But instead of going inside of it like a normal speedrunner would, they instead click on the egg. They then grab a torch and place it under the egg, so that way they now have the egg. But instead of leaving the end with the egg, they instead travel towards the edge of the map and throw the only egg in the entire game of Minecraft off the edge. You have to be a lunatic to do that. Well, now that they did that, they go towards the portal and just simply beat the speedrun. This speedrun starts right next to a desert village. And the first thing they do is head into the village, but they cannot sprint. This is because they're literally about to die of hunger. There's no way they started a speedrun already losing hunger bars. But once the speedrunner is inside the village, they of course get themselves some food, but then as soon as they're done eating their food, we get a slight glimpse of this blue plank, which is a type of wood that does not spawn inside the desert, as it can only spawn inside the end. Well, the speedrunner explores the village a little bit more until they find 3 randomly placed chests. So they go up to the first chest and open it, where they find tons of diamonds. So they take the chest full of diamonds and go up to the second chest where they find more diamonds? Okay, well, they go up to the third chest, but wait. I have a weird feeling that this last chest is gonna have diamonds inside of it. So if I'm right, I think everyone should subscribe. Well, the speedrunner opens the chest and finds more diamonds. Who would have guessed? Well, I guess that means that everyone now has to subscribe. Well, now that the speedrunner has 2.69 billion diamonds, they enter a villager's house which has a crafting table. So the speedrunner crafts himself full diamond armor. You're probably thinking that the speedrunner has some pretty overpowered loot. And that's what I thought too, until the speedrunner randomly wanders around and finds a random chest. So they open this random chest where they find insanely overpowered loot. I honestly didn't even know that they could get more overpowered loot than what they already had. But the speedrunner takes all of this loot and heads into the Magarov swamp biome. As they go deeper inside of it, they find a random desert area in the middle of the swamp. Not only that, but they also find a buried ruin portal. But here's where things get rather strange, because as they go up to the ruin portal, they dig in a very specific spot where they find the chest to the ruin portal. Now, I'm just confused how they knew that the chest was here, because something's telling me that they definitely are cheating. Well, they open the chest and surprisingly find some pretty normal loot, but they only needed this chest for the flint and steel. So they take the flint and steel and build out of the hole. They then for the next minute just dig out the entirety of the ruin portal until all the sand is out of the way. They then light the nether portal and enter the nether. Once they're in the nether, we can spot something that is very unnatural. A soul sand bridge that weirdly leads to absolutely nowhere. So the speedrunner follows this bridge until 2 ghast start shooting at them. So they place some obsidian around them and then go in third person where we can see this very odd chest. I guess going in third person gave them a whole new perspective on things. Well, they open the chest and find tons of blaze rods and also some ender pearls. So the speedrunner takes all the loot and heads back towards the nether portal. Now, once they're back in the overworld, they build out of the hole and then turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and make themselves some eyes of ender. They then throw the eyes of ender and follow it into the mangrove swamp, where eventually they find an end portal, so they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, the speedrunner kinda messes up, because they're trapped in a box and they have no pickaxe. That is until the speedrunner goes up to the wall and backs up, and they're suddenly out of the hole, which I'm pretty sure is not legit. The speedrunner then uses their bow to shoot out all the end crystals, but then tons and tons of endermen start attacking them. And I think this makes the speedrunner extremely frustrated, because in the blink of an eye, all the endermen die, including the ender dragon. The speedrunner could even beat the ender dragon with their cheated items, which is honestly just embarrassing. This speedrunner starts by running a tank into a tree? What the heck? Oh wait, this is the wrong footage. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. I will actually be very sad if you don't subscribe, so you better subscribe. This speedrunner starts inside of a snowy village, but for some reason they're on a snowy icicle. Well, the speedrunner goes down the icicle and immediately gets some carrots from a farm. But then this cute little rabbit wants some carrots, so they smack it. The speedrunner then goes throughout the village until they find the blacksmith. So once they enter the blacksmith, they open the chest and find full iron armor, which, don't get me wrong, isn't impossible, but is actually pretty rare to get full iron armor out of one chest from the blacksmith. The speedrunner takes all the loot and puts on the iron armor. They then mine some wood to get themselves some sticks and enter another villager's house, where they for some reason open a furnace and find 3 diamonds. I'm not sure why there's 3 diamonds inside of a furnace, but I guess I'm just crazy or something. The speedrunner then places down a crafting table and makes himself a diamond pickaxe. Now that they have a diamond pickaxe, they find some coal, and whenever they go to mine it, they realize that on the other side is a nether portal. Well, I guess the speedrunner goes through the portal, and once they're in the nether, they suddenly have a diamond sword, which if we look back inside the footage, they definitely did not have a diamond sword. They also have like 100 piglins trying to kill them, so they begin running away when all of a sudden the piglins just stop attacking them. And that's when we can see that the speedrunner has a golden helmet, which they definitely did not have before. Well, the speedrunner tries to fight the blazes, but the blazes get him down to half a heart, and just as he's about to die, he is suddenly full HP. So I think the speedrunner died, but just cut out the part where they actually died. Well, instead of killing the blazes for blaze rods, the speedrunner instead just breaks the spawner. And once they go up to the portal, they open up their inventory where we can see that they already have blaze rods, even though they killed 0 blazes. Well, they go back to the portal and into the overworld, where they find this absolutely insane sugarcane farm, even though I'm pretty sure villagers don't even use sugarcane farms. Well, the speedrunner breaks the entire sugarcane farm and then goes across this lake, where they see a chunky piece of snow, so they break it and then begin digging straight down. They keep on digging straight down, where they eventually find themselves in the stronghold. Wow, what are the chances that they spawn on top of the stronghold? Pretty lucky, huh? They break the silverfish spawner, and turns out that they only need 1 more eye of ender. So they turn around and find a random chest, which of course has 1 eye of ender. They place in the eye of ender and enter the end. Once they're in the end, they dig out of the hole and begin wandering around the end, where they realize that there's just no ender dragon. So I guess the ender dragon just took a day off or something. Well, they go through the portal and win the speedrun. This speedrunner starts in a plains biome and immediately goes to mine a tree. Once they have enough logs, they make themselves a crafting table and start making their way across the plains biome until they find a cave with some iron and some coal. So they place down their crafting table and make themselves a wooden pickaxe. They then mine some stone and make themselves a stone pickaxe, which they use to mine the iron and the coal, which they smelt, and make themselves a bucket. They then take all their loot and head back to where they spawned at, but that's when we see this lava pool, which looks kinda weird, because normal lava pools usually have stone around them, which means that it's naturally generated, which makes me think that this speedrunner just placed down the lava here to fake the speedrun. But they fill their bucket up with water and try to make themselves a portal, but fail miserably. But that's when they look up into the sky and turn around, and there's suddenly a portal there, even though if you look back in the footage, there was definitely no portal there. But they can't even go to the nether because they don't have a flint and steel. But that's when they go up to this flower and dig next to it, and directly under it is a flint and steel. So they take the flint and steel kill and light the nether portal and enter the nether. Once in the nether, they go down this long cave and find some blaze rods just sitting on the ground. I don't think blaze rods just randomly drop on the ground like this. So they take the blaze rods and go back through the portal and into the overworld. Once in the overworld, they turn their blaze rods into blaze powder and then begin mining a tree, which they dig directly below and find an end portal. But the thing is, the speedrunner doesn't have any ender pearls. Wait, what? I don't recall them ever getting any ender pearls throughout the speedrun, but maybe I just forgot? Well, they place in the eyes of ender and enter the end. But once they're in the end, they think they can make this jump, but whenever they try, they miserably fail. And I'm pretty sure they rage quit because the speedrun just ends there. If you thought that was a cool video, I would highly recommend clicking this video as well because this video is also pretty cool.